Donald Trump thought he could silence Jasmine Crockett on live TV, but what followed left him embarrassed and walking out of the studio. This was the moment Jasmine Crockett showed the nation what genuine leadership looks like. Bright studio lights reflect off a sleek table position at the center of the stage. The live broadcast has just started, and across the nation, millions are tuned in. The moderator's tone is calm yet serious as he greets the viewers. Tonight, he says, we focus on the real issues Americans face every single day. Rising living costs, a broken healthcare system, and the demand for justice for everyone. His words linger in the air. These aren't just headlines. These are real challenges shaping the lives of countless families. Jasmine Crockett sits on one side of the table, focused and composed. You can sense the seriousness in her expression. She understands how many people are depending on her to speak their truth. When the moderator turns toward her, the room falls still. Jasmine leans forward slightly, her hands resting on the table. Her voice is calm, steady, and kind, but filled with conviction. She starts with the economy. Across this country, she says, there are parents working 2, sometimes 3 jobs, yet still struggling to feed their families. There are seniors who have worked all their lives but can't afford their medicine. People are not afraid of hard work. They are afraid that their hard work still won't be enough. The camera slowly pans to the audience. Some nod quietly. You can almost feel the weight of her words settle across the room. Jasmine moves on to healthcare. Her tone sharpens, her urgency clear. No one should have to choose between taking their child to the doctor or paying the electric bill. But that's exactly what's happening. And every time we delay action, people suffer. People die. She pauses. The room is silent again. Even the moderator looks surprised by the stillness of the audience. Then Jasmine shifts to her final topic, justice. When we talk about justice, she says, we're not just talking about courtrooms. We're talking about fairness in every part of life, at work, in schools, and in our communities. People are tired of feeling like the system isn't built for them. They want leaders who stand for them, not just for the powerful. Her tone strengthened. That's why we're here tonight. Not to trade insults or throw slogans around, but to talk about real solutions. Her words land firmly. It's clear she isn't here to play. For a moment, the entire studio feels united. Even the camera angle seems softer, framing Jasmine as a calm, rational voice. The audience looks moved, heads nodding, some leaning forward. It feels like a genuine discussion about real change is finally beginning. But then, the sound of a microphone shifting breaks the silence. Donald Trump, sitting across from Jasmine, leans forward. He hasn't spoken much yet, but everyone knows that once he does, he commands the room. Instantly, the atmosphere changes. Viewers at home can sense it too, that tense feeling right before something happens, and no one knows which direction it will take. Trump clears his throat, his familiar confidence filling the space. With one quick remark, he slices through the calm that Jasmine had built. The studio goes quiet. Jasmine has just finished laying out her main point, the economy, healthcare, and justice. The audience is hanging on her every word. But then the atmosphere changes. Donald Trump leans forward in his chair, his fingers tapping lightly on the table. His face shows a mix of a smirk and a glare. He waits just a second longer than needed, the kind of pause that makes everyone hold their breath. And then he speaks. You know nothing about America's problems, he says with a sharp laugh, waving his hand as if dismissing everything Jasmine just said. The sound carries through the studio. It is not only what he said, but how he said it. Dismissive and belittling. The kind of tone that says, I control the stage now. Jasmine blinks, but does not move. The moderator shifts uneasily in his chair, unsure whether to step in. The audience murmurs softly, a mix of gasps and whispers. But Trump is not done. He leans closer, his voice louder now. Tell me something, he says, pointing a finger toward Jasmine. Are you really from America or from Africa? The words hang in the air like smoke. For a moment, there is complete silence. Even the cameras seem unsure where to turn. Then comes a collective reaction. A gasp ripples through the crowd. Some cover their mouths. Others glance around as if to ask, did he really just say that? The moderator looks stunned, his hand frozen above his papers. Trump, however, sits back with a pleased expression, as if he has delivered a winning blow. He glances toward the audience, waiting for applause or laughter, but none comes. Instead, the air feels tense. Jasmine's face stays calm, but there's a flicker in her eyes, a quiet fire. She does not reply immediately. She lets the silence grow, letting Trump sit in the space he just created. Sensing the stillness, Trump keeps talking. You know, he continues, people like you stand here talking about justice, talking about the economy, but you don't understand this country like I do. I built business. I created jobs. I am the reason America is strong right now. He points at Jasmine again, his voice rising, words coming fast and forceful. You are only trying to make me look bad because you have nothing real to say. Now the attack feels personal. It is no longer just about policy. It is about questioning Jasmine's place, her right to speak. The camera turns back to the audience. You can see people leaning forward, waiting to see how she responds. This is the kind of moment that could make someone lose composure, the kind that could end in shouting or walking away. But Jasmine does not move. She sits back in her chair, folds her hands, and takes a slow breath. Trump keeps talking, throwing words across the table like quick jabs. Yet Jasmine's calm presence begins to draw attention. Then she looks at him, not just a glance, but a steady, unwavering look that makes the entire studio go quiet again. What she is about to say will shift the whole tone of the night. The moderator senses it too and remains silent. The cameras zoom in, one on Jasmine, one on Trump. This is no longer just a debate. It is turning into a true showdown. The room is still. Trump's words still hang in the air. He leans back, arms crossed, wearing a faint smirk, certain he has won this round. But Jasmine does not rush. She does not raise her voice. She does not wave her hand. Instead, she takes a slow, steady breath and leans slightly forward. The microphone catches the faint sound of her inhale, making the moment feel even heavier. Her eyes fix on Trump, not with anger, but with something sharper, steady and calm. Then, in a voice so controlled it feels like she is speaking to the entire country, she asks, Mr. President, who is your real wife, Ivanka or Melania? The studio falls silent. The audience freezes. Even the moderator seems to stop breathing. The words cut through the air like a blade. They are not loud, not shouted, but they hit hard. Trump's smirk disappears instantly. His eyes widen, then narrow. For a brief second, he says nothing. He does not move. In that silence, Jasmine keeps her eyes locked on him, refusing to look away. The cameras close in on Trump's face, capturing every flicker, shock, confusion, then anger. The audience stirs. A few gasps echo around the room. Someone gives a nervous laugh. Others whisper to each other, did she really say that? Trump finally tries to break the silence. He forces a laugh, but it sounds uneasy and thin. That's ridiculous, he says, waving his hand as if to dismiss the question. But Jasmine continued. She tilts her head slightly, her voice calm but with sharper edge. You made it personal, she says. You question where I come from. But the American people deserve clarity. When you speak about family values, what do you truly mean? The reaction comes quickly. A few claps, a few cheers under the breath. Trump's face flushes red, his jaw clenches. He leans forward, trying to take control of the moment. This is disgusting, he snaps. You should be ashamed of yourself. But Jasmine simply sits back, hands folded, completely steady. You called me out, she replies softly. I am only asking the questions many Americans have wanted to ask for years. If we're going to talk about respect, let's be honest about it. The power has shifted. Trump looks like he is searching for a response, but the damage is already done. The energy in the room leans toward Jasmine now. The audience can sense it. People sit straighter, eyes fixed on her. She has taken command of the entire debate without ever raising her voice. The moderator, who has stayed silent through it all, finally exhales and glances toward the camera. He knows they are witnessing a moment that will be replayed again and again. Trump tries once more to shrug off, muttering about low blows and unfair questions, but Jasmine does not reply. She stays still, her silence saying more than any words could. At that point, it is clear Jasmine Crockett has not only defended herself, she has turned the entire confrontation around. The silence after her question feels endless. Trump's face tightens, his lips press together. For a second, it looks like he might laugh it away, but then his expression hardens. Suddenly, his voice booms across the studio. That's a disgusting question, he yells, slamming his hand on the table. The noise makes several people in the audience jump. You went below the belt, he continues, pointing straight at Jasmine. But Jasmine stays calm, her hands still folded. The contrast is striking. Trump is standing now, leaning across the table, his voice echoing, while Jasmine remains seated quiet and composed. The moderator starts to speak, but stops himself. This is no longer an ordinary debate. It feels raw, unpredictable. Trump turns toward the audience, as if trying to rally them. You all saw it, he says, his voice shaking with anger. She attacked me with a disgusting, personal question. No one has ever treated a president this way. The crowd reacts, but not as he expects. A few people clap, but most sit still, watching closely. Some even cheer softly for Jasmine, who is not moved. Trump's face grows redder. You think this is funny? This is a disgrace. Jasmine finally speaks, her voice low and steady, but strong enough to reach every corner of the studio. You began with a personal attack, Mr. President. I stayed focused on the issue. You made it personal first. The audience reacts instantly, clapping, cheering, even a few whistles. The energy in the room has completely shifted. Trump shakes his head angrily. No, I was telling the truth, but the crowd's cheers drown him out. In a sudden burst of frustration, he pulls off his microphone and throws it onto the table. I am done with this. He turns, walking away from the stage. The cameras follow him for a few seconds, capturing each step as he storms off, shoulders tense, mumbling to his aides. The sound of the audience is a mix of surprise and energy. Some whisper, others laugh nervously. Back on stage, Jasmine stays still. She watches him leave, then slowly turns toward the moderator and the cameras. The moderator looks speechless, glancing between Jasmine and the empty chair across from her. The moment feels unreal. The President of the United States has just walked out of a live debate. The cameras cut the crowd. They are still buzzing, some shaking their heads, some smiling in disbelief. The tension that filled the room moments earlier has turned into something else, a sense that a line has been crossed, that something unforgettable just took place. When the noise finally fades, Jasmine speaks again, calm but firm. This is exactly why I say we need leaders who focus on real problems instead of personal attacks. This is not a game. People depend on us. The room falls quiet again, but this silence is not tense. It is respectful. The stage feels different now. Trump's chair sits empty, his microphone still lying where he dropped it. The energy has changed, calmer but heavier, as if everyone understands they just witnessed a moment that will be remembered. Jasmine sits still for a moment, letting the silence sink in. The cameras remain on her, waiting. She leans forward slightly, her voice soft but confident. America, she says, eyes meeting the camera. This discussion was never meant to be about me. It was never meant to be about him. It was meant to be about you. Her words land slowly and clearly. The audience is completely silent, hanging on every sentence. She gestures toward the empty chair. When we turn discussions into insults, when we spend our time trading personal attacks, we lose sight of what truly matters. And that's you. The people watching tonight, the ones working long hours, taking care of their families, trying to make it through the month. Her tone strengthens, filled with quiet passion. I did not come here to fight. I came here to speak about the reality that so many of you live, struggling paycheck to paycheck, worry about medicine, and wanting justice for everyone, not just a few. She pauses, letting her words breathe. And yes, she continues, I asked a question that made some uncomfortable. But that question was about integrity, because leadership is not about who yells the loudest or throws the hardest punch. Leadership is about accountability. It is about setting an example for the next generation, so our children grow up believing in honesty, fairness, and respect. She glances toward the moderator, then back at the camera. Her expression softens, but her tone remains sure. You deserve leaders who talk about solutions, not distraction. Leaders who face hard questions without running away. Leaders who put you first, not their pride. The audience begins to clap softly at first, then louder, until the entire room fills with sound. Jasmine waits for the noise to settle before she continues. A good leader listens, she says. Donald Trump thought he could silence Jasmine Crockett on live television, but what followed left him red-faced and walking away. This was the moment Jasmine Crockett showed America what true leadership looks like. Bright studio lights shine over a polished table at the center of the stage. The live broadcast has just begun, and across the nation, millions are watching. The moderator's tone is calm but serious as he greets the viewers. Tonight, he says, we are focusing on the real challenges Americans face each day, the rising cost of living, the broken healthcare system, and the need for justice for everyone. His words linger in the air. These are not just discussion points. These are the struggles that define daily life for millions of families. Jasmine Crockett sits on one side of the table, focused, composed, and ready. The seriousness of the conversation is clear in her eyes. She understands how many people rely on her to express what they feel. As the moderator turns toward her, the room falls still. Jasmine leans forward slightly, her hands resting on the table. Her voice is calm and steady, yet it carries strength. She begins with the economy. Across the nation, she says, there are parents working 2 or even 3 jobs and still struggling to keep food on the table. There are seniors who have spent their lives working but cannot afford their medicine. People are not afraid of effort. They are afraid of working endlessly and still falling behind. The camera pans across the audience. Some nod quietly. You can feel her words settle into the room. Then Jasmine turns to health. Her tone grows sharper, filled with urgency. No one should have to decide between taking their child to the doctor or paying a utility bill. But that is the reality many face. And every time we delay change, people suffer. People die. A pause follows. The room goes silent once again. Even the moderator looks surprised by the quiet in the audience. Next, Jasmine moves to justice. When we talk about justice, she says, we are not only talking about courtrooms. We are talking about fairness everywhere, at work, in schools, and within communities. People are tired of feeling like the system works against them. They want leaders who stand with them, not only with the powerful. Her tone strengthened. That is why we are here tonight, not to trade insults or repeat slogans, but to talk about how to truly solve these problems. Her words land firmly. She is not here to play games. For a moment, the whole studio feels united. Even the cameras seem to soften, framing Jasmine as a voice of reason. The audience looks moved, heads nodding, some leaning forward in their seats. It feels like an honest discussion about real change is about to begin. Then the faint sound of a microphone shifting breaks the stillness. Donald Trump, sitting across from Jasmine, leans forward. He has been mostly silent, but everyone knows that when he speaks, he draws the room's full attention. Instantly, the energy shifts. Viewers at home can feel it too, that tense pause before something happens, when no one knows what direction it will take. Trump clears his throat, his familiar confidence returning to center stage. And with one quick remark, he slices through the calm atmosphere Jasmine created. The studio becomes quiet again. Jasmine has just finished presenting her thoughts on the economy, healthcare, and justice, and the audience is still absorbing her words. But then the tone changes. Trump leans forward, his hand tapping lightly on the table. His expression is part smirk, part glare. He waits just long enough to build tension, the kind of silence that makes everyone hold their breath. Then he speaks. You know nothing about America's issues, he says with sharp laugh, waving his hand as if dismissing everything Jasmine just said. The sound echoes through the room. It is not only what he says, it is how he says it. His tone is dismissive and condescending, the kind that claims control over the stage. Jasmine blinks but remains still. The moderator shifts uneasily, unsure whether to step in. The audience murmurs softly, a mix of gasps and whispers. But Trump continues. He leans closer, his voice louder now. Tell me something, he says, pointing toward Jasmine. Are you really from America or from Africa? The words hang in the air like smoke. For a brief second, there is total silence. Even the cameras seem unsure where to turn. Then the audience reacts, a wave of gasps, a few covering their mouths, others looking at each other in disbelief. The moderator looks stunned, his hand frozen over his notes. Trump sits back with a satisfied grin, as if he's just delivered a finishing blow. He glances toward the crowd, waiting for approval, for laughter, but none comes. Instead, the atmosphere feels heavy. Jasmine's face stays calm, though there's a faint spark in her eyes, a quiet fire. She does not respond immediately. She lets the silence linger. Trump sits back, letting the moment he created linger. Feeling the silence, he fills it with more words. You know, he says, people like you always talking about justice, about the economy, but you do not understand America like I do. I built company. I created jobs. I made this country strong. He points at Jasmine again, his voice rising, his words quick and sharp. You're only trying to make me look bad because you have nothing real to offer. The attack is personal now. It has moved beyond policy. It is about questioning Jasmine's right to sit at that table, to speak at all. The camera turns to the audience. They are on edge, waiting to see how she responds. This is the moment that could break someone's composure, a moment that could end with shouting or walking away. But Jasmine does not move. She sits back in her chair, folds her hands, and takes a calm breath. Trump continues, throwing words across the table like punches. But soon, it is Jasmine's calm that starts to draw attention. She lifts her eyes toward him, not a glance, but a steady look that quiets the room again. Everyone senses that what she is about to say will shift the tone of the entire night. The moderator feels it too and stays quiet. The cameras moving closer, one focus on Jasmine, one on Trump. It is no longer just a debate. It has become a defining moment. The room freezes. Trump leans back, arms crossed, wearing a faint smirk as if convinced he has already won. Jasmine still does not rush. She takes one slow breath and leans forward slightly. The microphone catches even that sound, making the room feel heavy with silence. Her eyes stay fixed on Trump, not angry but sharp and composed. Then, in a calm voice that reaches everyone watching, she asks, "Mr. President, who is your real wife, Ivanka or Melania?" The studio falls completely silent. The audience freezes. Even the moderator pauses, stunned. The words are quiet but cut deep. Trump's smirk disappears at once. His eyes widen, then narrow. For a brief moment, he says nothing, barely even moves. Jasmine keeps her eyes on him, unshaken. The cameras zoom in on his face, catching every flicker of shock, confusion, and anger. The audience reacts with gasps. Some whisper to each other. Others look around as if unsure what to do. Did she really just say that? A voice murmurs somewhere. The moderator stays frozen, his hand hovering over his notes. Trump finally forces out a laugh, but it sounds uneasy. "That is ridiculous," he says, waving his hand like he can push the moment away. Jasmine does not stop, tilting her head slightly. Her tone remains even but carries a sharper edge. "You turn this personal," she says. "You question where I come from. But the American people deserve honesty. When you talk about family values, what do you really mean?" The room reacts immediately. A few people clap softly. Others cheer under their breath. Trump's face turns red, his jaw tight. He leans forward, trying to seize control again. "This is disgusting," he snaps. "You should be ashamed." But Jasmine stays composed. "You called me out," she says, her voice calm but clear. "I am only asking what many Americans have wondered for years. If we're going to talk about respect, let's be honest about it. The balance has shifted." Trump looks like he is searching for a comeback, but it is already too late. The room feels like it now belongs to Jasmine. The audience knows it too. They lean forward, focus entirely on her. She has taken command of the debate without ever raising her voice. The moderator, silent all this time, exhales and glances at the camera. He knows this moment will be replayed again and again. Trump tries to dismiss it, muttering about unfair questions, but Jasmine does not reply. She holds her ground, her silence saying more than words ever could. It is clear now. Jasmine Crockett has not only defended herself, she has turned the entire confrontation around. The silence that follows her question seems endless. Trump's face is tight, his lips press together. For a second, he looks as if he might laugh it off, but then his expression hardens. And then it happens. His voice rises suddenly. Donald Trump thought he could silence Jasmine Crockett on live TV, but what happened next left him red-faced and walking off the stage. It became the moment Jasmine Crockett showed the nation what real leadership truly looks like. Bright studio lights reflect off the polished table in the center of the stage. The live broadcast has just begun, and across the country, millions are watching. The moderator's voice is calm but serious as he welcomes viewers. "Tonight," he says, "we focus on the real issues Americans face every single day. The rising cost of living, a broken healthcare system, and the need for justice for all." The words hang in the air. These are not just points of discussion. They are real struggles that shape the lives of millions of families. Jasmine Crockett sits on one side of the table, focused, composed, and ready. The seriousness of the discussion is written in her face. She knows many people are counting on her to speak for them. As the moderator turns toward her, the room grows silent. Jasmine leans forward slightly, hands on the table. Her voice is steady and warm, but full of strength. She begins with the economy. "Across this nation," she says, "there are parents working 2 or 3 jobs and still struggling to feed their families. There are seniors who have worked their entire lives, but still cannot afford medicine. People are not afraid of hard work. They fear that their hard work will never be enough." The camera pans slowly to the audience. Some nod quietly. You can feel her words settle in the room. Jasmine moves to healthcare. Her tone sharpens. "No one should have to choose between taking their child to the doctor or paying the electric bill," she says. "But that is happening. And every time we delay, people suffer. People die." She pauses. The room is silent again. The moderator looks surprised by the stillness in the crowd. Then Jasmine turns to her final point, justice. When we talk about justice, she says, we are not just talking about courts. We are talking about fairness everywhere, at work, in schools, and in our neighborhoods. People are tired of feeling like the system is not for them. They want leaders who fight for them, not just for the powerful. Her voice grows firmer. That is why we are here, not to trade insults or repeat slogans, but to talk about how we fix these issues. Her words strike deep. It is clear she is not here to play game. For a moment, the entire studio feels united. Even the camera frames her as a voice of reason. The audience looks moved, some nodding, others leaning forward. It feels like a real conversation about real change is about to start. But then, the sound of microphones shifting breaks the calm. Donald Trump leans forward, ready to speak. People have worked their entire lives, but still cannot afford their medicine. They're not afraid of hard work. They fear what happens when that hard work still does not meet basic needs. The camera slowly moves across the audience. Some people nod quietly. You can feel the weight of her words filling the room. Jasmine moves on to healthcare. Her tone becomes sharper, more direct. No one should have to decide between taking their child to the doctor and paying the electric bill. Yet, that is a reality for many. And every time action is delayed, people continue to suffer. Some even lose their lives. She pauses. The room falls silent once again. The moderator looks almost taken aback by the stillness of the crowd. Then Jasmine turns to her final point, justice. When we talk about justice, she says, we are not only referring to courtrooms. We are talking about fairness everywhere, in workplaces, in schools, and in neighborhoods. People are tired of feeling that the system is not built for them. They want leaders who stand up for them, not only for the powerful. Her voice becomes firmer. That is why we are here tonight, not to trade insults or throw slogans, but to discuss how to truly solve these problems. Her words hit strongly. It is clear she did not come to play around. For a brief moment, the whole studio feels united. Even the camera angles appear softer, showing Jasmine as a calm and reasonable voice. The audience seems moved, heads nodding, some leaning forward in their seats. It feels like an honest discussion about real solutions is about to begin. But then, the sound of microphone being adjusted breaks the moment. Donald Trump, sitting across from Jasmine, leans forward. He has remained mostly silent until now, but everyone knows that when he speaks, he takes control of the room. Instantly, the energy shifts. Viewers at home can sense it too, that tense moment when something is about to happen. But no one knows which direction it will take. Trump clears his throat, his usual confidence filling the space again. And with one sharp remark, he cuts through the calm that Jasmine had built. The studio is quiet. Jasmine has just finished presenting her points. The economy, healthcare, and justice. And the audience is hanging on every word. But then there's a change. Donald Trump leans forward in his seat.